I just saw one of my own little quotes in a book that I wrote some years ago. And it said, if you are different, that doesn't mean that you are wrong. And if you don't fit in, that doesn't mean that you don't belong. And that is kind of the core of where we are trying to be different than we are. We're trying to become something that we are not. And in my book, that is one of the most violent acts that we can do to ourselves. We're basically cutting ourselves off from who we really and truly are as an expression, a divine spark, a divine expression of beauty and life and energy. And it shows up differently for every single one of us. So trying to fit in and be like others, it just makes no sense. And it's easy for me to say that right now. Of course, I went through all that myself, and it is a hell ride. You're always stressed and contracted and scared. You're afraid that people won't like you if you are like this. So you try and become like that. It's really a mess. And if there's anything I can say today to inspire you to try out and find out who you are when you are yourself. We're always trying to improve ourselves, but all we really need is to be ourselves, to become ourselves, to be ourselves, because we already are that. And the thing about trying to be more loving, more accommodating, more spiritual, that is all the separate sense of self that is trying to imagine that it is spiritual, loving. But it's impossible because your separate sense of self is literally separate from your divinity, your divine expression, your divine spark. It is separate from it. Separate means separate. They're not even connected. It's a separate sense of self that is trying to be spiritual. It's impossible. It's like oil trying to be water. They do not mix. And we think that they will. Like if I'm just more loving, if I'm more generous, more giving, then people will like me more. And then I will be more spiritual. We're trying to live up to some values. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not advocating to not be loving and not be kind and generous. But if you're doing it out here, it's not authentic. It's coming as an efforting, trying to be something you're not. Now, the beauty is that when you do become yourself and you do not engage with trying to be different, pleasing others, imagining, pretending you're more spiritual, whatever we all do, we've all been there more or less. When you stop that and start healing that, and that's why to me, self love is the balm to heal that, because it just melts that separate sense away. And then at least you have an opportunity to see, well, what is left? What is here when I'm not engaging with that? And then you can put your attention there and find out. And here's the beauty of it. When you realize that you are that, you don't need to try and be more loving or more gentle or more spiritual. it makes no sense in here because you're just being yourself, and that is naturally loving, naturally giving and generous and whatever it is. But it's not because you are trying to be it. See, when you try to be it out here, you're disconnected from where it already exists. So it's not authentic. It's trying to create a personality that looks spiritual and kind and whatever, but it's not real. But letting go of that, then putting your attention here, and it is already here. Now, I want to add to that. There might be people who will not think you're loving or spiritual when you are this fully, because the expression comes through very differently in all of us. It certainly has the same flavors, but the expression is going to be different. For me, I'm loving, but I'm not the fuzzy, overbearing, which is usually happening out here. And when you live out here, there is almost an expectation that this is how it's supposed to look. And we try and please and all that. That doesn't even exist here. It would be like, what is that? You know, if you do that, you will have to leave your source, your divine source, foundation, or fountain, and then pretend that you're fuzzily loving. It makes no sense, literally. So the good news is that you do not have to try and become something else that you're not. And that would be trying to do it out here, severed from your true identity, your true fountain. And instead, find out, what is it like to just stay here and see how that unfolds? It's so simple. It's so simple, but out here it's really complicated because we are trying to fit in and be liked and loved by all these other separate identities who are also disconnected to the source. So there might be a time period where people may not recognize that in you at all. And it's so fine. It doesn't matter, you know. It's also nice to be acknowledged, of course, but it's not something you are busy with. And the people out here may still expect you to be fuzzy if you're spiritual, you know, and they may not recognize that the truth of it. And, you know, I'm not trying to say that I'm fully embodied in it, but once you start really dropping in, it becomes super simple. And then it's going to be easier and easier to just let go of whatever layers are still hooked in, or what I'm still hooked into unconsciously. It's just a process. But there is a time where it just like, you don't you don't try anymore. You just, when you see something that's not true in you, you're just willing to let it go. You're willing to own it, maybe, you know, publicly, not on a stage necessarily or on a YouTube channel, but you can just say to your friend, you know, oh my God, I'm noticing that I'm whatever, you know, I'm trying to make you believe what I believe or whatever it is. And that's that separateness that wants other people to be like who we be similar to us. So we'll be liked and accepted and included. It doesn't exist here. And it is much more comfortable and relaxing when you don't feel the need to be other than you are. Now, of course, the process to get there, that takes a little work because we're very identified with this false identity. We really believe that we are that. So it's learning to unhook. And what I've talked about before is that when we're trying to get rid of ourselves, hate ourselves, judge ourselves, just imagine all the energy that goes into this false identity. Just imagine the amount of energy you are giving it by fighting it, by not liking it. And all that energy only keeps this identity alive. It's like you're giving that gourmet meal that it needs to stay alive, because duality and not liking, not loving is the opposite of who you are. So it's the way that the false identity stays seemingly alive. I mean, it is alive in our mind expression, because that's where we're doing all this stuff. So yeah, if you need permission to be yourself, permission is granted. Of course, you need to grant yourself that permission and try it out. Be with people that you feel safe with. And I find it helpful in the beginning to just, yeah, be with people that are safe and speak about, where you're not true to yourself, or how you are trying to blah, blah, blah. Or you can say, oh, I just caught myself saying yes to you, but I actually don't want to go. So that is a really good way to start. If it is new for you, if you've been in this for a while, just allow the depth to take you and just see where you're still not fully aligned with your inner divinity, where there is such sweetness and peace and effortlessness. It's not, you're not efforting to be yourself, to improve yourself, or to be other than you are. There's just like, and in me, there's also like, oh yeah, show me more, show me more, show me more. So it's all happening from in here. And it's like once you drop in, you just let yourself be taken until who knows what. If there is an end at a certain point, it just keeps getting easier. So, yeah, give that a try. Have a beautiful day. And thank you for listening.